Cool. So thanks, James. Um, we call it Sales Brew at Barista. This part of our blog when we interview thought leaders. And I thought about talking today about objection handling. And so the first question I'd like to ask you is, what are the most important objections to prepare for before you hop on a call?
Yeah, so there are two types of objections that are in a sales process. The first one is during the prospecting phase, and these are soft objections. These are things like, we're all set, you're not interested on the first call, I don't have time for this, it's not a priority right now. All they're saying to you in that moment is that this is not even in my focus. But it's a soft objection because they don't really know that they're not interested. They don't really know that they're all set. It's just a way to not have this conversation right now. So when you get soft objections, know that they're soft objections and tread lightly, but consistently add value, invite them to things, passively talk to them about things that could be valuable for their planning moving forward. If you find out what their priorities are, that's a great place to start talking about those priorities, because you can provide value there and suddenly you become this resource instead grupof a salesperson. We have to start there, right? They have to want to talk to us about our stuff. So soft objections, the first kind. Later down the cycle, when you start getting into paperwork and you start getting into statements of work and actually what the gives and gets are, here's what you're paying for and this is what you get. That's when you get harder objections. That's when you get objections like, this is not in our budget, or we did not plan for this to be implemented this year. How are we going to allocate budget for that? This is when you get tech situations that don't align, that could stop your deal altogether. Oh, you guys don't use this product? Oh, we can't help you, right? Those are real objections that you've got to be able to overcome. So know where to draw the line between those two. That's my first piece of advice when it comes to objections.
Yeah, I totally hear it. And because handling objections, this is why we have reps and not just product. We need people to help to build the relationship and help relieving some of the pains of the clients. So I think the second question is, do you think that in a certain company, every rep should handle a certain objection the same way, or you should differ between different types of reps and different types of personalities?
So this question is more centered on whether or not your group, your sellers, your team, your individual contributors know their ICP and A/B test what's working for that particular vertical, that particular persona. For example, if you're speaking to a CRO, they're typically a chief revenue officer, for those of you that don't know that acronym. If you're speaking to a CRO, they're most interested in revenue. So when you talk to them, everything that's valuable to them is going to come into their brain in the form of dollars. That's how they think about things, money, right? Currency. But if you're talking to a marketing director, they're more interested in things like impressions and exposure and reach. So you have to talk in those terms, right? Objection handling of any kind comes down to who you're selling to, and then A/B testing all of your possible reactions to see which one performs the best, and then using that as the standard operating procedure for the team. Mad scientists. That's what we have to be in today's selling environment. We have to be mad scientists. What is the data telling us that we should use?
Cool. And how do you go about training reps about handling objections?
Yeah, so I like role playing because I think role playing gives someone that's doing training an opportunity to put real roadblocks in front of people and watch their reactions, right? Part of confidence comes from competence. So when we feel more competent in our delivery when handling objections, like when someone says, we already have a solution for that. If you don't know exactly what you're supposed to say right afterwards, it becomes this like, oh, you do? Okay, well, thanks for your time. And then that's it, like it's over. And you don't really have the right to reach back out to that person. But when you say, yep, we hear that all the time. And most of the time when we find people using a solution, that comes down to two things: freight and price, right? And then that's it. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly why we use that product. Their freight and their price is perfect. And you're like, cool, we talk to people that use that all the time. our freight and our price works a little differently, and I think it might be more beneficial for you. That's why I want to have this conversation. That's handling an objection and being trained to know what to say immediately, that's centered on the thing that your ICP and persona cares about the most, freight and price.
I agree. And so in order to, like you said, A/B test different kind of objections and train people on how to do it and do role plays, you should document all the objections and how to handle them. So
yeah,
how do you
a
go
list
about
of
documenting?
objections. Yeah, a list of common objections is really helpful for the role-playing exercise. But even more so than that, like have the rep respond with the objection handle in the mirror, right? Put them in front of a mirror and stand them there and say, talk to yourself. Give yourself the objection and look at your body language. Make the eye contact. See how it feels to hear that from you in that way. Is it effective? If you talk like this, great. But if you don't talk like this, it's going to come out awkward. It's going to make you feel crazy inside, right? That's how your prospect is going to feel.
Yeah, I see it. And so I assume that when working with different sales organizations, you see those A players and that handling objections very well, closing deals that nobody can't. And do you have an idea how to go about replicating those A players' game and making it a process to the entire org?
So part of this is about creating a positive competitive environment, right? All of the players that are not the A player should be in the same room or at least on calls with the A player occasionally, so they can pick up those characteristics, those language points, their inflections and tones. Those things matter. Once a seller gets that vibe from that A player, the idea is that they will, by osmosis, start doing the similar things that that A player does, and thus reaching that same height. And that's a good practice to get into. There's also like the upward mobility factor. If an SDR aspires to be an AE, I hope they're attending the demos that they're setting so that they can learn the other side of that coin. Great. You know how to schedule meetings. Now what are you going to do with them? Right? Like, so there's an osmosis factor that has to take place, but that's not the same as training, right? Most SaaS training, most sales training in general works like this. Hey, I'm going to put you in with this account executive and they're going to run through a bunch of demos today. Make sure you ask a lot of questions. Got it? And then you come out and they go, cool. Now that you know the product, even though you don't, yeah, it's just been one day, right? And they're like, oh, we'll show you our process. And this is our process. This is how you send invoices. And this is how you get paid. And you're like, okay, cool. And then they're like, here's your quota. Good luck. No, right? It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes a lot of exposure to that A player to really grab a hold of those characteristics and use them yourself.
Sounds great. So just before this call, before we started recording, you told me you're passionate about what you're doing. So unrelated question, what do you love most about sales?
What do I love most about sales, or what do I love most about my job specifically?
You can go about both, but
yeah, all right.
Let's talk
I will
also
do
about
that.
sales. So
yeah, I will do that. I'll tackle sales first. So I think the thing that I like about sales is that I'm an extrovert, and when you are an extrovert, you feed off the energy of others around you. And sales is an opportunity to get in front of lots of strangers and feed off their energy. To me, that is what I like the most about sales. I meet strangers every single day. And as an extrovert, that is exciting for me. You know, it just so happens that when you're in sales, there's a purpose to meeting strangers. You know, you can't just randomly go out meeting strangers, but have no purpose. that's actually weird. But I think sales gives you a reason to go meet new people every day. And I love meeting new people. That's like my passion in life. So yeah, that's what I love most about sales, strangers.
No, actually, I think it's a required characteristics.
It is.
Like to talk to people.
Yeah, people in sales sometimes forget that that's their job. Talk to people you don't know. Sorry, that's the gig.
Yeah, I'll always remember your tip in Chicago when you told us that the best place to hire potential candidates is bars and restaurants.
100% true. That is 100% true. And those people are gifted. They do not get nervous or some type of feeling inside. There's no like anxiety meeting new people. They walk up to tables full of strangers every day and they go, "Hi, my name's James and I'm going to be your server today. Can I start you off with something to drink? Our margaritas are fire." They're like, "Oh yeah, I'll have 3," right? Like that's sales. That is like the breeding ground for sales.
So last question, talking about restaurants and things like that. How do you like your coffee?
I like a little bit of milk, and I've been using a sugar substitute since my type 2 diabetes kicked in last year. My pancreas has been having some issues, so I've been avoiding sugar. But used to be I would do sugar. I was using creamer for a long time, but then I found out that it's mostly vegetable oil, the creamers that you buy, like the flavored creamers. And like, I'm not going to flavor my coffee anymore with vegetable oil. So now I'm using 2% milk and a sugar substitute. I think I'm currently a Splenda user, but somebody told me I should try other things. I like Splenda. It doesn't bother me at all. But that's how I drink my. Oh, and I am a loyal chock full of nuts. That's my coffee of choice. But I only drink 1 to 1.5 cups in the morning. It's usually I'm done with coffee by like 11, 12 o'clock. Like I don't have any more coffee the rest of the day.
Cool. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be a blast.
Yeah, you got it. If you want to learn more, feel free to become a member. Join us at joinjbsales.com. Go out there, become a member, invest in yourself, man. Like no one is responsible for making you successful. That is your job. So come with us. Let us walk with you.
We always recommend you guys. Cool.